So, chapter 11, the 9 situations. Master Sun says, "This is how war is waged. Your situation may be compromised, liminal, contested, insecure, focal, committed, impeded, surrounded, or mortal. When you do battle on the territory of a rival lord, your situation is compromised. When you enter his territory, but not too deeply, your situation is liminal. When both we and he might gain the upper hand, your situation is contested. Where we may occupy, but he may approach, your situation is insecure. When his lands are enclosed on 3 sides, and the first to arrive takes the multitude of all under heaven, then your situation is focal. When entering his territory so deeply that enemy forts and cities are at your rear, then your situation is committed. When mountains and forests, ridges and obstructions, and boggy ground make it hard to march on the roads, your situation is impeded. When entry to territory is through narrow confines and retreat is difficult, with our army vulnerable to attacks from his units, your situation is surrounded. And where only desperate battle keeps you from destruction, your situation is mortal. When your situation is compromised, do not fight. When your situation is liminal, do not halt. Where your situation is contested, do not attack. Where your situation is insecure, do not march onwards. Where your situation is focal, make alliances. Where your situation is committed, plunder. Where your situation is impeded, march on. Where it is surrounded, make plans. And where your situation is mortal, fight." Since olden times, it has been said that the skilled warrior made it impossible for the enemy's front and rear to communicate, impossible for his separate units to count on one another, impossible for his bold men to inspire his cowards, impossible for the officers and men to trust each other, impossible for his disrupted formations to reform, impossible for his fighting soldiers to keep to their posts. If your enemy needs to engage, make him redeploy. If he needs to move, make him stop. If you ask me how you might prepare for the arrival of a well-organized enemy army, I would say, first seize that which he loves, then he will listen. In war, speed is the key. Exploit your enemy if he is not ready. Take the road he does not watch. Attack the place he does not guard. When occupying territory, this is the approach. To prevent the defending force from counterattacking, enter deeply. When food is in abundance, plunder so that your army has sufficient provisions. Ration judiciously and do not overwork them. Build strength by uniting their spirits. Plan and implement your troop movements so that they are unpredictable. Throw men into a place with no escape, with death more likely than retreat, and they will attack with all their might. Soldiers lose all fear when they lose all hope. When there is no escape, they push back. When deep in enemy territory, they seize. When they have no choice left, they fight. And so, without command, they will be vigilant. Without requests, they still do their best. Without promises, they are loyal. Without orders, they will be trusty. Ban superstition and banish doubt, and they will go to death and beyond. My soldiers are not rich, but they do not hate possessions. My soldiers are not immortal, but nor do they hate life. On the day the command comes to march out, they slump with tears on their collars. They lie on the ground with tears on their cheeks. But throw them into a place with no escape, and they are as bold as Zhu and Gui. The skilled warrior is like the Shuairan, a snake found in the mountains of Heng. Strike at its head. and it lashes with its tail. Strike at its tail, and it snaps with its head. If you ask me how you might steer an army into behaving like the Shuairan, I say it is possible. The men of Wu and the men of Ye hate each other, but if they were in the same boat, cast adrift on the wind, they would help each other, as the left hand helps the right. And so, it has never been enough to trust in the securing of horses and the burying of chariot wheels. Make all courage as one in your management. That is the approach. Take hold of both the hard and soft. This is the principle in such situations. And so the skilled warrior commands as if he is leading a single man by the hand. He leaves no choice. The leader of an army should be calm and tranquil, straight and organized. He should keep his men unknowing, deceiving their eyes in tears. He should keep his men ignorant of changing plans and reverses in strategy. He should ensure that his men do not grasp changing positions and shifts in the odds. When the time comes to lead, it is as if he climbs up high and kicks away the ladder. He plunges deep into enemy territory before going into action. He drives them on like a flock of sheep, driving them forward and back, though nobody knows where. Assemble the military force, then throw them into jeopardy. Such is the job of the general. The 9 situations vary. Advantage changes with retreats and advances, and with principles of morale. This cannot be ignored. When in enemy territory, this is the approach. Go deeper for unity or risk desertions. When leaving your kingdom and crossing the border, your forces come into a compromised situation. When vulnerable from 4 sides, you are in an insecure situation. When deep in enemy territory, you are in a committed situation. When you are only on the border, you are in a liminal situation. When you have the enemy behind you and limited options, you are in a surrounded situation. When you have no escape, your situation is mortal. In a compromised situation, we should make our will as one. In a liminal situation, we should encourage fraternization. In a contested situation, we should call in the reinforcements. In an insecure situation, we should remain on the defensive. In a focal situation, we should cultivate our allies. In a committed situation, we should focus on our supply lines. In an impeded situation, we should continue our advance. In a surrounded situation, we should guard the choke points. But in a mortal situation, we should make it clear that there is no chance of survival, for it is in the nature of an army to push back when cornered. They obey when hemmed in. He who does not know the strategies of a rival warlord cannot become his ally. He who does not know the dispositions of the mountains and forests, ridges and obstructions, or boggy ground, is unable to march his army. He who does not use native guides is unable to use the terrain to his advantage. He who forgets even one of these several points is unfit to command the army of a hegemon. When the army of a supreme monarch attacks a great kingdom, it is not possible to raise an army against him, for his reputation intimidates his foes, so that they do not unite against him. Nor does he fight against fellow vassals of the sovereign, nor does he scheme against them. His self-confidence and reputation intimidate his enemies, and so their cities may be taken and their kingdoms brought down. Give out rewards unheeding of the rules. Give orders without rationale. Command your entire host as if managing a single individual. Give them their tasks, but do not give your reasons. Face them with the threat, but do not tell them of your advantages. Thus they will survive a compromised situation. Thus they will survive a mortal situation. Confined and hard-pressed, they will snatch victory from defeat. And so, in warfare, keep careful watch on what your foe is thinking. When the enemy is in your sights, you may kill a general from 1,000 miles distance. We call this achievement through sheer cunning. Thus, on the day that war is declared, shut down communications, cancel passwords, confine ambassadors, be resolute in the council chamber that you may achieve your goals. When your enemy leaves an opening, be sure to go straight through it. First see what he loves and conceal your timing. Bumble along as if blind until the crucial moment of battle. And so, at first, you should seem coy like a woman, so that the enemy opens the door, but then dart like a hare, and the enemy cannot hold you back.